So again, very welcome to this very special evening of every Friday that we have a weekly meditation and live harp music. And today we have a fortune to have a very special guest with us, Brother Charlie, who is visiting from Australia. And he is an international coordinator of Brahma Kumaris and practicing meditation from over 40 years. And we also have a very insightful talk. Today's topic is love, strength, and hope. And on the harp, we have our sister Kyoko, who is a certified healing harpist and Raj Yogi for over 20 years. So we would listen and the talk and also really deeply experience meditation.
While listening to this divine music, just allow yourself to completely relax. Feel yourself letting go. Just feel your mind becoming lighter and lighter. At the heart of a beautiful life is love, strength, and hope. But where does it begin? How can I begin the journey to deeper love, greater strength, and real hope in my heart? It begins with the relationship with me. When I have a loving, healthy relationship with myself, strength and hope spring automatically. But when I have an unhealthy relationship with myself, I feel weak and anxious. In these next few minutes, let me ask my heart honestly, how do I treat myself? Am I loving? Am I kind? Do I give myself respect? Do I forgive myself when things go wrong? Or do I I speak harshly to myself? Do I create self-talk that is always critical and negative? Because at the heart of a life filled with love, strength, and hope is a relationship with my fundamental and true self. To begin the journey towards love, strength, and hope, gently visualize yourself as a radiant point of light. Sitting lightly in the forehead. This is I, the eternal soul, the one who's lived before this body and will continue after this body. And let me begin the process of letting go all the limited identities I've collected. Just feel yourself letting go, identifying with what I do. I may be a parent, a partner, a colleague. That is not who I am. That is what I do. And just feel yourself stepping back, letting go, withdrawing from identifying with what I do. And now visualize your body sitting in the chair. Just for a moment, observe all the labels of your body. Your gender, your color, your age, your nationality, your religion. These are all temporary labels. They are not who I am. Let me continue this journey to a deep relationship with my true self. And see the self, the tiny soul, and feel a deepening relationship with my permanent self. the more I remain aware of who I am, the stronger I feel. And feel the sweet feelings of peace soothing your mind, calming down your heart. And in this state of soul consciousness, visualize the lover of the soul, the ocean of love, the divine, the supreme amongst all souls. Visualize this radiant jewel of light, the one relationship that is permanent. I, the soul, in love with my eternal parent, I'm not imagining, I'm relating to a real living being. And just allow the subtle thread of your intellect to touch the one who is the ocean of love. Just visualize yourself connected with this unlimited source of pure divine love. And become like a little child and allow yourself to be completely loved. Just for a few moments, completely keep your focus on connecting with the ocean of love and feel this love entering the core of your being. Just hold these thoughts. Keep holding the feelings of connection with this unlimited source of love, and feel it healing you, liberating you from identifying with your past. This love has the greatest power. This love will fill me with so much strength. This love will make me resilient. And it's this love that will restore my self-love, my self-respect. I am a loving soul. The more I remember this one relationship that is permanent, I absorb this love into my life. And I become an instrument of God's love. This love fills me with so much hope. And when I hold these elevated feelings in my mind, my mind becomes like a perfume that spreads these sweet feelings into the atmosphere. Everyone can feel my mind. And when my mind is in love with God, when my self-respect is restored, the fragrance of my mind colors the atmosphere. This is the most beautiful life. To live in this incredibly challenging world. But to be an instrument to spread love, strength, and hope. By just being who I am. My eyes radiate love. My face radiates mercy. And my vibrations uplift everyone's spirit. The world is going through massive transformation. The more I think and analyze what is going on, my vibrations contribute to the negative atmosphere. But when I choose live in soul consciousness, to have loving feelings for myself, and to fill myself with this divine love. I can become an instrument for change. As I go about my life, whether in my family, in the workplace, even a casual acquaintance on the street, let me offer them love, strength, and hope. Just feel I am an instrument of these feelings. And the more I become the instrument, I create a life with purpose, a life with meaning, a beautiful life. So thank you so much, everyone. And a special thank you to Sister Kyoko. Did you feel an angel was playing the harp? Everyone felt it. What I'd like to do is just share a few thoughts, and then we'll have some time for a little bit of chit-chat, discussion, questions, and so on. And really, it's a beautiful subject, isn't it? Love, strength, and hope. And I think these three things really create a quality life. And these three things really help us manage this extraordinarily challenging world that each one of us has to deal with, not just on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. And I would say these three things are, in a sense, the heart of spirituality, true spirituality. Well, the angel's just gone. And I think that love gives strength to the heart. Love gives power to the heart. Strength gives power to my thoughts and feelings. And hope gives power to my future. But where does it all really begin? What's the seed of really not just talking about these lovely ideas, but actually making them happen in my life? You know, I think love is the seed. Love is the great power in life. And I think that when I taste the quality of love, there's no greater power to shift something profoundly deep inside myself. And if I reflect on all the languages in the world, I don't think there's anything written more about than the subject of love. And if you reflect on all the languages of the world, there's nothing sung more about than love. I think we all know that. You know, love is the pinnacle human experience. And love is definitely, in my experience, the most transformative human experience. And I was attending the World Parliament of Religion some years ago, and there was a rabbi there who was speaking. And he said there's three things. There's information, knowledge, and wisdom. He said of himself, I have lots of information, a little knowledge, and no wisdom. I think he was being quite humble, actually. But we have so much information about love. If you Google the word love, you get over 1 billion results. There's so many theories, beliefs, ideas about love. But the wisdom of love is to actually express it in life, taste that experience and actually express love in my life. And I honestly believe that that is the most beautiful life, the highest quality life. And I think many of you know Daddy Janki, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris until 2.5 years ago. She passed away at the age of 94. She never really had a formal education and yet had a wisdom from life. And once she said something like that the ultimate result of all knowledge is to be completely loving. And I love that. It's almost like if I absorb truth into myself, how does truth appear? Do I become an incredible academic, a big intellectual? No, it appears as love. It is expressed as love. And if I really reflect on my own life, I would say that my observation and what I love about spirituality is this gentle, observation of your inner world. And when I observe my heart full of love, I notice I feel so relaxed. I feel so easy. And I'm definitely more generous and compassionate towards others. To me, the most powerful thing in life is a loving heart. And a loving heart can break down barriers. A loving heart can fill empty hearts. A loving heart can heal hearts in pain. And yet on the other side, when the heart lacks love, the repercussions are extraordinary. Have you noticed the mind can never rest? You know, that agitated mind, something's missing, sort of searching, seeking, looking, something is missing. And to me, the first need in life is love. The first desire in life is that quality of love. And when I don't taste it, 1,000 other desires begin to emerge. The desire that you respect me, you recognize me, the desire for power, the desire for control. Look at our world. This is our world. Why? Because I think somewhere that quality of love has really been lost. And sometimes, when I reflect on our world, all the crises in our world, I promise you I won't list them because I think we're all just over it. So many crises in our world. But what I feel is the greatest crisis is relationships. Because there's a lack of true love. And when the human soul doesn't taste that love, it's just like things don't work within me and in my life in general. And for the first time in human history, we're watching the breakdown of the family. And the family is that sort of support unit that nurtures my heart with love, belonging, and care. And we all hear constantly about mental health issues today. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. But actually, from a spiritual perspective, when there's a lack of quality love in this life or a last life, it's like my thinking and my perception just doesn't work anymore. And I think that, spirituality is about love, strength, and hope. But when I sow the seeds of true love, that is the foundation of feeling strong and resilient. And the whole framework of my thinking begins to change from sort of a whole anxiety about what will happen to a sense of more hope. And to me, the first wisdom of love is to have a loving relationship with myself. And I find the wonder of this world. We are so educated about the world outside, but it seems we are so uneducated about the world inside. The hardest thing for most of us is to have a sustainable, loving respect for myself. And if I can't respect myself, will I respect the environment? Will I respect other people? Will I respect society? I don't think so. And, they talk about emotional intelligence, which is a wonderful ability to build rich, loving, sustainable relationships with others. But spiritual intelligence is the wisdom to build a rich, loving, sustainable relationship with me. This is the seed of inner strength. And when I'm able to do that, it's like the healing process begins. And sometimes I think the first relationship in life is with me. And when that relationship is unhealthy, it pollutes each part of my life. It affects how I feel. We all know that. It affects my relationships with others. It even affects my physical health as well. How important is it to heal this first relationship with me? And this is why on this journey to love, strength, and hope, the seed is really rebuilding that fractured relationship I have with myself. When I really reflect on this, I think that when I look inside, there's like three personalities inside. Have you ever felt there's more than one person living up here? And two of these personalities, I would say, really suppress the experience of love, and one of them begins to really grow it. And the first personality takes its whole sense of self from my temporary body. I call it the I of arrogance or the I of superiority. And when this I is ruling, I compare myself with others. And I think, I am better, I know more, I am right. The way I think is right, the way I perceive things is right. But when my ego is ruling in my inner world, when the I of arrogance is ruling, when it comes into my feelings, that's when I feel so easily insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, sensitive. So when all the range of emotions, that spectrum of feelings is inside me, no, the false I is ruling my inner kingdom. I've lost the sovereignty. I might be well educated. I might know a lot of stuff, but I've lost the sovereignty of my inner world. And there's an incredibly deep relationship between ego and love. Fundamentally, the more ego I have, the less lovable I am. And what is the role of ego? When my ego rules my inner system, it makes you feel separate. In your head, it's reality that people don't include me, people don't give me belonging, people don't respect me. But the more ego I have, that's the mentality it creates. But actually, the I of arrogance is a facade for the second I, which is the I that dominates our world. I often call it the vulnerable me. And this is the I of lack of self-respect, or the I of inferiority. This I also takes its whole sense of identity from all the labels of my body. What's common to all of them? They are all temporary. And when this I is ruling my inner system, I compare with others. I think they're better than me. They don't love me. They don't respect me. And when this I is ruling and it comes into my feelings, that's when hopelessness kicks in. I feel hopeless, inadequate, unworthy, inferior, depressed, I would say. And in psychology, depression is it's like a sadness inside that my dream in life to be loved and valued hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. Who am I really? So I want to have a loving relationship. I want to be strong. But when I'm deceived by this false sense of self, what happens is one day I'm up, the next day I'm down. One day, 1 hour I'm flying, the next hour, this incredible roller coaster as the I of arrogance and the I of lack of self-respect are dominating my inner world. And really what spirituality says is the third I is the original I, the eternal soul. And when I begin to think of myself as a soul, this point, a point so subtle. In mathematics, a point exists, but it has no length, breadth, or width. I am such a subtle entity. I've lived before this body. I had no labels. I come into it. I think I'm the temporary labels, and then I leave and adopt another set of temporary labels. But as I begin to get to know myself, that I am an eternal, immortal point of life energy. That's the reality of the self. I'm like acting through this body. My own experience is it's like coming home to a place in myself. You just feel so comfortable. You know, with that lovely feeling when you just feel connected with your fundamental self. You feel so easy, so comfortable. You take all the pressure off yourself to look good, to be something. You know, out there today, it's like you have to have an image, you have to be noticed or something. And it's like the beginnings of a healing of a relationship with the self. Because I feel that when I'm able to do this, I really start to reconnect not only with a loving relationship with myself, because the soul is really the only part of me that's truly lovable. You know, the body conscious part of me is not so lovable. But when I really reconnect with myself, I start the journey of feeling stronger, a natural resilience to deal with all the stuff the world keeps throwing at me. So the first wisdom of love is to have a loving relationship with myself. But the second is to have a loving relationship with the divine. And, you know, sometimes I think the subtext of our life is this search for true love. And if you think in your life, we all look for this. We invest our heart in relationships. We give everything. If you think how much you've given to your family and so on. And yet there's a huge human dilemma that no relationship is permanent. No relationship is permanent. Whether it's time, whether it's change, whether it's conflict, whether it's death, the object of my love will go. And the beauty of spirituality is that spirituality begins to explore the one relationship that's permanent, the relationship with God. And when I meditate, I love the feeling of just sitting down and letting go the temporary self, the consciousness, and literally feeling the soul sitting lightly in the forehead. Because when I do, I can look through the eye of the mind, the third eye, and see God. Because just as I am a soul, God is also a soul, a living, conscious soul. But I'm a soul that's taken birth and rebirth, and I've reaped the fruit. I know happiness, I know sorrow. I know all those gamut of emotions. But God is eternally uninfluenced, eternally pure. Not a concept, not an intellectual belief, but a real living soul. And actually, when we meditate, I'm connecting with this source. It's almost like the image I have sometimes is that all day you think your mind in a millisecond will plug in with a thought of the past. The next millisecond, what I have to do. The next millisecond, one of my family members, you're constantly plugging in. And each thing that you plug into, you are influenced by that. So if you plug into a bad relationship, your whole tone of your mind goes down. If you plug into something good happening, it goes up again. If you plug into the future and you feel anxious, it goes down. So this, whatever I plug into will influence me, and that's how I feel. And in a sense here, the logic of this is to really plug into a source that's constant and is full of all the spiritual nutrients that I need. The nutrients of love, of strength, of hope, and all these things. And it's a real living relationship. And these days, sometimes I feel if you say to a lot of people, sit down and meditate, I think there's such a yearning in the heart to meditate. But if we're really, really, really honest, it's not easy. And most people say there's such a pure wish to meditate well, But when I do it, my mind wanders everywhere, and subtly I begin to think, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm good enough. Seems like everyone else can do it, but I can't. But this is why I love the word we use here is not so much to meditate, but to remember. Because remembering is natural. It's the most natural thing of your consciousness. Even as you're sitting here and I'm talking, you know, your mind will be remembering things you have to do. Your mind will be remembering people. You know, how many things and places have you visited in the last 20 minutes? It's darting around, connecting with so many things. And when you remember, three things happen. First, you connect. And whatever you connect with, secondly, it influences you. And thirdly, whatever influences you have a feeling or an experience inside. So if you're sitting here at this moment, the subtle thread of your intellect travels to a family member. You have a good relationship. The instant you connect, you're influenced by that love. You feel okay. But if you travel and connect with a family member you're not getting on well with, there's issues, there's problems, the instant the subtle thread touches, you're influenced by that conflict, you come down. Really, the logic of what we're doing here is to remember that being that's constant, that's unlimited, that's full of love, power, peace, strength, hope. It's not my imagination. It's a real living connection. You can see me here, I think, can't you? Everyone can see me. I think you can, even those online. I'm a soul, but I'm expressing through my body. You can see me. I'm talking, I'm acting, I'm seeing. God is a soul like me, but does not have a body, but is real, conscious, and living. Because then there's a natural affinity and there's a natural relationship, which I have. And sometimes I think that it's like God's on the FM wavelength. And when I'm bodily conscious, when the soul forgets the self, I get absorbed in the temporary self, the image, the labels. I'm on the AM wavelength. I can believe in the FM. I know the FM exists, but I can't tune in. I'm on the wrong frequency. So I can believe in God. I can have faith, and perhaps that's what religion is about. But what we're trying to do here is go myself up to the FM wavelength and resonate on the same frequency so that this relationship becomes real. Why? Because I'd say the third wisdom I can say is that when there's a loving relationship with the self and the divine, the strength you develop, you will not get from any other place at all. And if you look at history and the people who've really influenced history, usually they've had this incredible connection with God. And I often think of it like my inner world is like a tree. A tree has a seed, a trunk, branches, and leaves. And your thoughts are like the leaves. You know, a huge tree has hundreds of thousands of leaves. So it's like the leaves are the end product of my inner world. There's just so many of them on the top. But what is feeding the leaves are the branches, my mental and emotional patterns. What is feeding the branches is the trunk, which is my subconscious in a way. But what's feeding my subconscious is my sense of identity. Who am I? And when I think I'm a body, that influences my subconscious, my mental, emotional patterns, overthinking. My mind is, because I'm so caught in this ego, lack of self-respect world, I'm fluctuating up and down all over the place. But when I sow the seed of my permanent and true identity, that I am the soul, it influences the trunk, my mental and emotional patterns of to be perfectionist or sometimes paranoid about things, all those, they change and my thoughts change. Because often we try to change my thoughts at the end of the tree. Who's had the experience? You pluck out a few negative thoughts, and what happens? A lot more grow again. That's the nature. So when we change the seed of who I am, it grows a tree which builds strength. My thoughts become strong. My feelings become strong because I've sowed the seed of truth of who I am in my inner world. But it takes practice. It takes practice. And really what we learn here is to go about my life, live my life as I am, but change what is happening in here. And start to live as I walk down the street, as I go to work, as I meet people. I start to think who I am and who they are. They're a soul too. And I start to remember the divine. And it's almost like when I reopen the truth of myself and this relationship, the byproduct is hope. I will naturally become more optimistic about my future because I don't really see it in material terms, in a sense. I see it in more unlimited terms. And I was actually in South Africa when Nelson Mandela became the president. Can't remember, but I think it was in the mid-90s. And, it was an amazing experience because it was like when he became the president, there was a whole country when I got there having a party. It was amazing. There was just such a feeling, no matter what racial group people were from, everyone felt somehow freed from something. And he had an incredible life because, I think he was incarcerated for 27 years, often in solitary confinement. And, when he went into jail, he himself said he described himself like a terrorist in a sense. But, in jail, he went on a deep spiritual journey. He read all the scriptures of the world. And he began to meditate. And someone asked him, what kept you going? Solitary confinement, 27 years. Could you imagine? His answer? Hope. He just said, I kept hope. I maintained hope. And, I think that really when he was in jail too, he developed this feeling for God as well. And I think that, look at our world. What can we say about our world at the moment? It's just such a, there's a million analyses of our world, which we read and we watch every day. But all of us have the hope for a better world for ourselves, our families, and each other. How can we do that? I think when we change ourselves. And one of the things that when I in my youth, I was one of those people always protesting against injustice and, everything like that. And I could tell you a lot of stories about, that. But, I began to realize our world will only change when we change, really when we transform, when we sort of really rebuild that love in myself. And when I do, rebuild a strength and a resilience, a strength to be patient, a strength to be tolerant, a strength to offer mercy to other people rather than judgment. All these sorts of things, that's real strength, that's spiritual strength, to be humble, these sorts of things. And then it's like I create hope in my life. And when there's individuals around, when just our vibration, our attitude can really offer hope to others. So I think, we're in an incredible time, aren't we? It's like sometimes I feel this like the one energy is just going so powerfully, probably a pretty negative energy, and yet at the same time there's a growth or a rebirth of a spirituality in the world as well. So it's like they're both like a confluence. Something old seems to be dying, but something new is being born. And I think that's what the spiritual path is, to renew myself, really become soul conscious once again, develop the link and get that incredible strength, inner strength and resilience to be able to manage this time and help those around me manage it too. So we're going to just open it up. And if I don't know whether anyone wants to share something, ask a question, whether online, we've got many online as well. And I keep looking at the television down there, but the camera's up there. So yeah, if anyone would like to share something, whether what you experience in meditation or whether you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, feel free. Most welcome. And I think if you do, there's a microphone that is going around.
Thank you, Brother Charlie. My question is, how did you experience God's love that has made you a person who is loved by everyone?
Well, if I share my story, I actually grew up in Melbourne, and I think, like a lot who are sitting in this room, from a young age, I was a searcher, looking for something. My nickname at school was Swami. My friends called me Swami, so you can get an idea of what I was like. But to be frank with you, I went to church when I was 12 for confirmation. My parents weren't really religious at all, but, get the kids there. And after a few months, they asked me, what have you been learning? And I said, I was 12, very wise 12-year-old. I think I'm an atheist, I said. I just couldn't relate to what I was hearing. Maybe I was naive and innocent. And I went to university, but I was really, I don't know, there was something restless inside me. So I left it and I wandered the world, as you could do then, for some years. And I often see that as my education, because I lived with Buddhists and Sikhs and Hindus and Muslims and Christians and Taoists. I went right from Australia overland through Southeast Asia, India, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. And that was a great education for me. And I became an agnostic. I'm not sure. But actually, when I came across the Brahma Kumaris, it was in London. And I suppose, when you hear something that just sits comfortably, and I really deeply appreciate that people are different. What sits comfortably in me doesn't sit comfortably in other people, which is absolutely fine. But the idea of who I am and the concept of God it just felt so comfortable. It felt rational, if I can even use that word. And I can remember one day I was just thinking so deeply about this connection. And it was like there was a pause button on time, and I felt so loved. And I'd had a good family, a good life, but I felt this was like such an incredible feeling. And I can remember feeling I've come home, because I think that there's this real relationship with God as a soul. It's a purity of love you won't get from anywhere else. And I think that's what we search for. We do enter relationships and they're okay, but we're still there's a memory that there can be something which is higher. And I think Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who is from Los Angeles, I think, amazing woman. And she, as you know, used to teach about grief. And when, we all have grief. And when even she used to say, when you lose something small, it opens a pre-existing wound of this sadness, this sense of loss. But she always used to say the original loss, the seed of all grief, is that somewhere I lost this perfect love with God. And I've tasted it, and somehow I've lost it. And that's like the original grief in the human soul. And I think that I feel I can really understand that, because when I experienced this love, it really changed me. I can see tangibly how I softened in myself, and I think a lot of my judgments and things softened, and I definitely became a lot more, I hope, understanding and compassionate towards other people. And it was a really amazing experience. And what I love to do, my favorite thing in life, is to sit in the early morning hours and just become a soul like a child and allow myself to be loved. To me, that's really what meditation is, if we use the word, just sitting in front of an unlimited source, allowing myself to be loved. And if I can't feel it, don't panic. Don't panic. Wisdom is to observe what's blocking it. And it's almost always a sense of inferiority, a sense of not being pure or worthy for such love. This is like an inbuilt thing. And sometimes I think that, for so many lifetimes, if I can use that, on this religious search, which I think most of us have been on, what has been taught is, we come in front of God or the God or whoever it was in the religion. Oh God, you're so pure, you're so great, you're this, and I'm so low, I'm so impure, And it's reinforced in my psyche such a sense of unworthiness. That is the biggest obstacle in life, the biggest obstacle in spiritual life, this sense of not really being worthy to be loved by such a being. And I think I've worked on that over the years to try and, really it's our right. And sometimes I think, in the religious path, it says, become pure and you can know God. Spirituality says, know God and that will make you pure. It's the other way around, that you have the right to know God. And the more I do, my thoughts become elevated, my thoughts become clean. My thoughts don't trouble me so much. But it's a journey. We all know it's a journey. It's definitely a journey.
Thank you. There are few questions online. One of the question is, can you share some of your practices that helps you to go beyond the influence of your own personal experiences in this physical realm and go beyond the identity of it and go into the consciousness that you are the spiritual being?
I think a lot of us feel, in a sense, when I was talking about ego and lack of self-respect, have you ever been amazed how sensitive you can be? The tiniest thing can hurt you so deeply. A word can just be like an arrow in your heart, that we've become so fragile, so delicate, so sensitive. And I think a lot of the journey spiritually is letting go this, the more the soul's lost its spirituality, it's become impure, if I can use that word, the more everything affects me, disturbs me, upsets me. And to me, it's really when I get so lost in that relationship with God, it pulls me beyond a lot of things that used to influence me. There's a natural, if I can use the language, detachment. And detachment's a bit of a tricky word because a lot of people don't like it. But actually, what I think, or what we learn here, is to be loving and detached. And actually, detachment protects your ability to love. When you're detached, you can be consistently loving because you're not influenced by people's moods, behaviors as much. So you can maintain love. The more you're dependent, the more people affect you. So one day you love them and the next day you feel really upset and disturbed by them. And I, in a way, I would say, excuse my throat, it's a bit. In a way, I would say that the spiritual journey is like letting go all that addiction to being influenced, this habitual pattern. Because sometimes I think that why are we like that? Because I'm empty inside. And when I'm empty inside, my mind is like a vacuum cleaner. You know, if you give me love, if you give me respect, I take it in like the vacuum cleaner. If you cooperate, but if you insult me, if you disrespect me, I take it all in. And then I blame you for everything. But actually, I've lost all my spiritual power. I've become so vulnerable and so weak. So everything disturbs me, and then I project it back on everyone else and everything. What I love about spirituality is we take responsibility for who I am. I become fully responsible for how I feel. Sometimes I think the first law of spirituality is I am responsible for how I feel. And when I have the courage to do that, I think incredible change can happen. And then I start to gently, over a period of time, educate myself through my self-awareness and my relationship with God to live in this world and not keep absorbing this world. Sometimes I have the image also, just think there's 8 billion human beings in this world. It's incredible, isn't it? 8 billion. Every human soul is a mind pumping out thoughts into the atmosphere. We are living in like a thought soup. All of us are in this thought soup. And when the majority of us, and it's not a criticism, are pumping out thoughts of anxiety, fear, worry, depression, we absorb it. You wake up in the morning, you feel okay, but after a while you just feel a bit rocky inside because this is the atmosphere. And spirituality is taking back the mastery of my mind, first of all, that I'm not just drinking in the atmosphere of the world. I'm starting to take back the authority of my mind. And when I do, even my mind becomes fragrant too, that I can change the atmosphere. To me, this is really, such a beautiful thing to do, that I go to work and my main aim at work is not so much the work, but to create a different atmosphere at work. And that's such a gift to other people when through the fragrance of my mind, I'm sure you've all met people, you just feel easy in their comfort, in their company. You don't feel judged or labeled. You feel light. You can be who you are because they have a mental state which is loving and respectful and open. And when many of us become like that, we start to shift the thought soup because we're starting to put a different vibration back into this thought soup. But it's a pretty powerful thought soup. And that's why, if you don't have a connection with God, some days you can feel so down. The future seems absolutely bleak. I feel just heavy inside about myself and my life. And unfortunately, too many of us are living like that. And that's why really, I think it's essential to do something on a regular basis for myself. It's really, I think, an act of love for myself to have a regular practice. Yes.
I have, my question is how to reconcile if we are, working on our self-love and, living in that way spiritually. how to reconcile that with political activism or climate activism or trying to help the world and others in some way?
Yeah.
Or do we just work on ourselves and everything else will be better?
That's such an important question, because the seed of that is I want to make the world a better place. And I just tell you my story. I just alluded it because when I was 17, I went to the capital in Australia, Canberra it is, and Australia was supporting America in the Vietnam War. And, in my teenage years, I was out there on the streets. And I went with a few friends on a demonstration. There was a university festival. And, we started sort of walking, and some of the students got a little bit edgy, and whatever happened, I was arrested and put in the federal prison. And, I remember ringing up my dad in Melbourne saying, he said, "Hi, and how are you, having a good time?" "Dad, I'm in jail." But it was a really interesting night for me because there was a lot of peace activists there. And there were so many arrested, we were all in the same cell. And they started to talk, about, and I realized I was just sitting, I'm 17, I was pretty young. And I began to listen to this conversation. I realized we were the peace activists, and we're the most angry, negative, aggressive group of people. And it just really dawned on me, this does not work. You're fighting the energy with the same energy, and that's really when my spiritual journey really kicked in, because I think that, when we change, the world will change. It has to be a change in consciousness, really. It's the only thing that's really going to shift. How does that happen? When many of us go on the journey of self-transformation, we take full responsibility, because the list of issues in the world is endless. It's just endless. Why? Because the seed is corrupted. There's a corrupted seed as we've lost the awareness of who we are. We've all got the ego of body consciousness. So I'm right and you're wrong. And that just colors absolutely everything. And when I can remove that seed, I feel then I'm really contributing to a genuine transformation. It doesn't mean that we can't be constructive, but I feel the energy of that constructive has to be loving and respectful. And what I learned when I was in South Africa from Nelson Mandela was that he respected his enemies. That's the most amazing thing. What we do when someone is the person who's polluting the world or doing whatever they're doing, and we hate them, we put out that energy, it just creates more of that, trying to think of the word. But Nelson Mandela, he actually learned things from the people who incarcerated him, and he actually won them over. The most powerful thing is to respect the people who are the problem. And that, that's an incredibly powerful thing to do. If you have a conflict with another person, usually we just have so many thoughts of disrespect and anger and negativity. If you respect them and they get a genuine energy, they will come around to listen to you. You can actually open a dialogue rather than this sort of stalemate of egos that are just banging heads with each other. That's why I think really, unless we step into our higher nature, our elevated selves, this polarization in the world of I'm right and you're wrong, my way is the right way, your way is, and that polarization is so divisive, isn't it? It's just incredible division on so many levels. But in saying that, I think it's like we're going through a massive transformation in the world, which is all to do with human consciousness. And that's why I think what we do here, when we take responsibility for who I am and what I'm thinking, that's the most powerful thing to help change. And I was at a retreat once with some business leaders, and they were all in silence meditating. It was absolutely incredible. And a lot of them were saying that all over the world now, there's little pockets organically coming up, like us sitting here, who want a different way, completely different way. And they're popping up everywhere. You know, in all countries of the world, these little organic groups of people who don't want this old system, are not sitting around just blaming and projecting on all the people who are perpetuating the system, but they're starting to say, what can we do in ourselves to change? And you can feel, as much as the energy of the destructive energy seems to be growing, the spiritual energy is also growing. You might think I'm very optimistic, but I really do feel it. I really feel it. Mm.
Thank you. So there is a question here online that's very interesting. Why is the concept of God so hard to grasp? As much as I meditate and think about God, it is challenging for me to keep my consciousness to stay connected. Could you share some of the tips and wisdom that helps us to grasp intangible concept of God?
I think, we're all very, very different. And to be open with you, for me, I found religion difficult. And because religion sort of held God's, religion and God were associated with each other, I sort of threw out religion and God in a sense. But for me, I'm just telling my experience, when I separated God from religion, I think that helped me really, it's just a natural relationship, like we have a relationship. But when it's through a whole sort of lot of dogma and stuff, then that often is difficult. But I think the real reason God can be more a belief than an experience is that we're so body conscious. I have to become like God. I have to become soul conscious. And then the relationship becomes very tangible and real. But when in a sense, if you held the image, I am the soul sitting here, the conscious mind is here. But when my conscious mind is under the influence of my sense organs, meaning when I see something, I let in my eyes and I think. Now, if I see someone behave badly, it just triggers my mind. I hear a comment, it triggers my mind. In other words, my mind's under the influence of my sense organs. My mind is completely dominated by the external world. But when my mind is really, I learn how to have this relationship with God, then I observe more. I see things, I'm aware of things, but I don't let it come in my eyes, into my mind and drive my thinking. Or I hear things, I don't let it come in and drive my thinking in that way. So it's like I'm sort of becoming more self-aware, and when more soul-conscious I am, the relationship with God, the divine, whatever you like to say, becomes like a friend. I go about my life, I fulfill my responsibilities, but I carry that friendship, and that friendship, that connection gives so much support and strength, incredible support and strength. But it takes practice. And I would say the more I know and experience who I am, the closer I feel. That's why that first step of soul consciousness or soul awareness is so important for really making it real. So I'm not just sitting believing like a prayer in something. I'm really feeling connected and in relationship. Yeah.
Thank you for your inspiring talk, Brother Charlie. I definitely resonated with those concepts of the three I's, the me, myself, the ego, and the lack of self-respect, and coming to the true I. My question is around we're sort of in this body, and sometimes it's hard to escape from the physical, tangible aspect of the body. And sometimes we, traumas or things that happened in the past almost have this visceral way to stick in the body, and like the body tends to keep score, they say. So is there a way to, what are your thoughts around that and ways to heal that, just, to ease some of those from a perspective of the body?
Mm. The body is such an extraordinary instrument. Life is the marriage of the eternal self and the temporary self. So, I think the more I become aware of myself, just imagine, and the quality of your thinking is very much calmer, more gentle, more loving. That energy, what's it going to do to the cells of your body? It's going to have a huge effect. Have you read the research of the effect of emotion on the physical body? It's absolutely amazing. There's such a relationship between fear and the heart. If I was to say there's a fire in here, what's the first thing that happens before we all run for the door? Boom, 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 boom. If every day I'm afraid, am I going to be good enough? Will I be successful? That fear is always putting pressure on your heart. It's just a little pump. In a sense, all soul consciousness is taking back the natural order, the sovereignty, the inner sovereignty. I am a human being, and the marriage is a beautiful marriage. But when I forget and I just think I'm a temporary body, I have so much ego and I compare with others and I position myself as superior and inferior. And look at the relationships in the world today, whether they are just human relationships, country relationships, there's so much arrogance, I'm right and you're wrong, or this sort of thing. But when I'm more soul conscious, and there's a natural relationship, to the point I realize death is the most natural thing of all. It's a part of life, isn't it? So we've just built up this culture which is based on falsehood, that death is, the worst thing that can happen. It's the most natural thing. It's not one of us will remain in this body. And so I've got to learn who I am. And the more I do, I realize that I live before this body. I came into the womb, and then I'm going to leave it. Sometimes I have the thought that, when you're born, what do you do? This is my mum, this is my dad, these are my brothers, these are my sisters, this is my city, this is my country. And then you sort of maybe get married, and this is my partner, these are my kids, these are my grandkids, this is my house. You build up this whole huge network. In 1 second, you leave it. The whole thing is gone, finished. We are so naive the way we lead life. We just build up this whole image. And the more I attach myself to this temporary image, the more I fear losing it. But spirituality says, enjoy life, love life through your body. But understand that you can't ever own anything. And actually, the more we become insecure and fearful, that's when we, attach my heart to all these people, temporary possessions, roles, responsibilities. The more I attach my heart, the more I fear. I am the one building fear and insecurity into my life. I'm the one doing it. And yet when I'm a soul, I enjoy life equally. I have possessions. I use them. But if they break or they go, it's life. I don't take sorrow from it. It's living life in a body, but as a whole new mental framework, a whole new understanding of really what is the purpose of life. Things. But, in saying that, it takes time, because we've all been brought up in this body conscious culture, all of us. So it's a change, but I find the more you practice, the happier you begin to feel.
My question is, how do you keep hope alive when you've been waiting for so long for something to happen?
You know, I think often we build hope on temporary things outside of ourselves. So sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. You know, the culture of life today is because we're a bit empty, we do actions with a big desire. I want an outcome. I want a result. I want it to happen according to what I want. And when it doesn't, my hopes are dashed. I feel disappointed. Because in a way, the more I rebuild my foundation in life, because when I know who I am and I have a relationship with God, that can never be shaken. That's absolutely firm. So I build hope in myself. That's the real hope. And when you have a sense of self-respect and hope in yourself, you can have hope in others too. Your feelings for others, you have hope in their best person and their better life too. It's about me. Because sometimes, we have things like, I hope I get a good job. I hope. They're all transient things. Sometimes they may work, but often they won't work. And the law of life now, more often they're not working. So I build up hope, they're dashed. I build up hope, they're dashed. And so, to me, in a world at the moment, there's an epidemic of hopelessness. Unfortunately, there's an epidemic of hopelessness in the human soul. Sometimes I think there's a crisis in the human spirit. And when it bubbles to the surface, sometimes it's called stress, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, these sort of feelings. We've got to build a permanent foundation. Spirituality is basing my life on that which always exists, who I am and the relationship with God. So when all this stuff keeps changing around me, I can maintain hope. Otherwise, my hopes keep getting dashed very easily by situations.
Thank you, Brother Charlie, for this incredible evening. We have, as Brother was mentioning, this Raj Yoga meditation practice, this amazing information of spiritual knowledge, which helps us in being stable in this life, facing the various situations that we do in general. In particular, we offer Raj Yoga meditation course, guided meditation, just as it was today. Every week, Friday evening, is this guided meditation with live music. We have regular daily and weekly meditations, meditation course, retreats, talks that help us to deal with certain issues. We have a retreat center in Novato, Anubhuti Retreat Center, and we have Sister Elizabeth here from the retreat center. In other words, there are meditation centers all around in the Bay Area, in the country, and in the world. There are many who joined from different parts of the world today. So this is a very wonderful organization, movement, a spiritual family, something that helps us to get in touch with our own self in the most truest way. And I will speak as a third person. The true heart that these people have, these Brahma Kumaris have, is to go out, help everyone to turn their consciousness towards the truth and gain power from that, and then come into expression, then come into dealing with life.
Sure, we'll see you again. Thank you. Om Shanti.